You've got 48 hours. Boy, throw the fight tour, lose it all. That word, boy, the same word white men had used for centuries to belittle black men. The word that meant, you are nothing. Stay in your place. The Italian messenger smiled as he said it. Smiled at a 21-year-old Olympic gold medalist. Smiled at the quickest hands in boxing. Smiled because in 1963 America, a black man with a secret could be ruined by a single recording. Cassus Clay's crime. Believing in Islam. Speaking with Malcolm X. Daring to choose his own name, his own identity, instead of the one America handed him. His manager warned him, take the deal. Be smart, Cassius. You can't fight the mob. His backers said, bow your head. Live to fight another day. The same advice black men had heard for generations. Stay quiet. Survive. Don't shine too bright. Don't make them angry. But that night, Cassius Clay walked into a smoke-filled office on 125th Street. He sat across from a man the police called, a criminal in Harlem called a king, Bumpy Johnson. Mr. Johnson, Clay said evenly, I am the equal of any white man. I am great and so are you. Why do we always have to hide it? Silence filled the room. Bumpy studied the young fighter who refused to kneel, who refused to be caged. He saw himself 3 decades earlier, before he learned that power isn't given, it's taken. Bumpy leaned forward. His voice was low, but every word struck hard. We don't hide anymore, young brother. Not in my Harlem. Not while I'm alive. Then the so-called godfather of Harlem picked up the phone and declared war on the Italian mob. 7 weeks. That's how long. Bumpy Johnson had been out of Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary when the call came. 7 weeks since he walked through those iron gates for the last time. 7 weeks breathing free air after 11 years in America's harshest prison. He returned to Harlem, expecting his kingdom. Instead, he found a colony. While he was locked away, the Italians had taken over. Vincent Gigante, a rising captain in the Genovese crime family, had flooded Harlem with heroin. He bought politicians Bumpy once controlled. He turned protected streets into open drug markets. On the surface, Bumpy looked finished. 58 years old. No territory. No income. No visible power. The newspapers called him a relic. The Italians called him irrelevant. The police called him done. They were wrong. During 11 years in Alcatraz, Bumpy hadn't wasted time lifting weights or counting days. He was building something more valuable: connections. Every month, letters left Alcatraz for Harlem, coded phrases hidden in family correspondence, messages passed through visitors. He couldn't run an empire from prison, but he could keep loyalty alive. The men who had stood with him before his arrest remembered. They waited, they listened, they kept quiet, though. So when Bumpy walked free in January 1963, he didn't return to nothing. He returned to a network scattered, invisible, operating in shadows, but loyal. Barbers who heard every secret, numbers runners who knew every corner, cleaning women inside Italian social clubs, doormen at hotels, porters at train stations. His visible empire was gone. His invisible one remained, and that hidden network was about to become the most important weapon in Cassius Clay's life. To understand what unfolded in March 1963, you also have to understand the man watching from Washington, J. Edgar Hoover. He was obsessed with the Nation of Islam. He saw it as a national security threat, not because of anything it had done, but because the sight of proud, organized black men unsettled him. So he unleashed COINTELPRO, his covert surveillance operation, against leading members of the Nation of Islam. Malcolm X became the primary target. Agents tailed him everywhere. They wiretapped his phones. Informants slipped into his inner circle. Every speech, every meeting, every private exchange they could capture was recorded. Then, in February 1963, they caught something explosive. Cassius Clay, Louisville loudmouth Olympic champion, America's brightest young sports star, was sitting in Malcolm's living room in Queens. He spoke about Islam, about his quiet conversion, about revealing his faith to the world once he became heavyweight champion. In 1963, America. That recording could end a career overnight. Sponsors would vanish. Boxing commissions could suddenly discover reasons to deny licenses. The white power structure controlling professional sports could shut him out before he ever reached a title shot. The tape didn't move directly from the FBI to Vincent Gigante. It passed through layers: a compromised agent drowning in gambling debt, a mob-connected lawyer skilled at obtaining sensitive material, a chain designed to give everyone distance. By early March 1963, the tape was locked in Gigante's safe, and he recognized the opportunity instantly. Controlled Clay while he was still climbing, still hungry, still exposed. Own him before he wore the crown. Then use that control to fix fights, dictate purses, and turn the heavyweight division into a personal cash machine. All he had to do was remind Clay who held the leverage. March 11, 1963. Days before the Doug Jones fight, the man who knocked on Cassius Clay's door at the Hotel Teresa was Anthony Soler, known on the streets as Tony Pictures for his side business in blackmail photography. He was 34, average height, forgettable face, the kind of man who blended into any crowd. That was his gift. Invisible, until he wasn't. He had been shadowing Clay for 3 days, tracking him from gym to hotel, memorizing his routine. The Hotel Teresa was Harlem's crown jewel, the Waldorf of Harlem. Leaders, artists, and dignitaries stayed there. Fidel Castro had stayed there. So had Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, and Ray Charles. Room 847. Tony got the number from a bellhop who owed the wrong people money. He adjusted his tie and knocked. Clay answered in a white bathrobe, likely expecting room service. Mr. Clay, Tony said with a thin smile. I represent some associates. They have a proposal for you. May I come in? Clay was young, not naive. Growing up in Louisville had taught him what associates often meant. What kind of proposal? One best discussed privately. Against instinct. Clay stepped aside. Tony entered, glanced around. Boxing magazines on the bed, training gear scattered across the room. Man sat on the couch without invitation. I'll be direct. Mr. Clay, my associates have obtained something valuable. A recording made in February, in Queens. He studied Clay's expression, the brief flicker in his eyes, the tightening around his mouth. Recognition. I don't know what you're talking about. Clay said. Double quotes. Oh, you do. Tony lit a cigarette slowly. You and Malcolm X, a fascinating discussion. Your religious beliefs, your plans, your comments about what you called the white devil's Christianity. Clay's jaw hardened. That conversation was private. Tony exhaled smoke toward the ceiling. Nothing is private anymore. Mr. Clay, not in America. Lose the fight or lose everything. When the door shut behind him, Cassius Clay stood alone in the hotel room, feeling his entire future hang by a thread. He could accept the deal, throw the fight, become champion later, but as someone owned, controlled, another black man moving to a white man's orders. Or he could refuse, win honestly, and watch his career collapse because of a tape he couldn't stop. So he picked up the phone and called Malcolm X, who listened carefully, and then mentioned one name: Bumpy Johnson, a man fresh out of Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, labeled a criminal by police but respected in Harlem as a protector, who understood power differently than preachers or politicians. That night, Clay found himself in Bumpy's cigar-smoked office above Small's Paradise, explaining the tape, the threat, and the insult of being called boy. He refused to throw the fight, refused to become property, saying he would rather lose his career than lose himself. Bumpy studied him, reminded of his own younger defiance before 11 years behind bars, and warned that helping him could ignite a war with the Italian mob. Clay didn't flinch. He said they were fighting the same enemy, men who believed skin color gave them authority. After a long silence, Bumpy shook his hand and told him to focus on beating Doug Jones while he handled the tape, promising that by the end of the night it would no longer exist. Once Clay left, the office shifted into a war room as Bumpy summoned his closest men, ready to move. Bumpy stood behind his desk with a map of New York spread wide, telling his men the tape was hidden somewhere inside Vincent Gigante's operation and they had less than 2 days to find it. He ordered every contact: barbers, doormen, cleaning women, numbers runners to start digging, and by the morning of March 12, 1963, his network was moving as rumors hardened into addresses, leading them to a brownstone at 2847 Pleasant Avenue where captains were seen entering with briefcases and windows stayed covered. Confirmation coming from a waitress who overheard talk of the Clay tape locked in a second-floor safe and a teenage delivery boy who described 2 guards outside, several men downstairs, stairs to the left, and a rear kitchen entrance. By night, Bumpy had the layout, guard count, and entry points, lacking only the safe combination, which he decided they would persuade someone inside to reveal. On March 13th, at noon, 8 trusted men gathered in his office around a rough sketch of the building as he assigned roles. Some through the back to clear the first floor, others to quietly handle the guards. Drivers waiting nearby with engines running, timing the move for 8:30 p.m., when the city would be distracted by the fight at Madison Square Garden, making clear they would get the safe open one way or another and reminding them that after 11 years in Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary watching Harlem slip away, he would not allow anyone to hold leverage over a young fighter about to prove himself to the world. Bumpy rested his hand on the sketch and asked if there were any questions. There weren't. Get some rest, he told them. Tonight, we make history. By 7 p.m. on March 13, 1963, Madison Square Garden was alive with energy. 18,732 fans packed in for the first sellout in 13 years, the air buzzing before the opening bell. In his dressing room, Cassius Clay bounced lightly while Angelo Dundee wrapped his hands, asking if he was nervous. Clay insisted he wasn't, though tension edged his voice, his mind briefly drifting to the tape and to Bumpy Johnson and what was unfolding elsewhere in the city. Dundee reminded him that Doug Jones had power and the crowd behind him. but Clay answered that when it was over, they'd be cheering his name. At the same hour on Pleasant Avenue, a teenage delivery boy slipped into 2847 with sandwiches and cigarettes, noting 6 men total for inside watching the pre-fight coverage. 2 outside debating whether Jones would knock the talking kid out before reporting the count to Illinois Gordon waiting nearby in a car. Moments later, the signal went out. They were on. At 8 p.m., the bell rang. Clay dancing, jabbing, circling as Jones stalked forward. The crowd booing until a sharp right hand snapped Clay's head back and ignited the arena. He steadied himself, pushed out aside, and focused. By 8:15, 2 black Cadillacs idled in the shadows 3 blocks from the brownstone. Engines low, radios crackling, Bumpy checking his watch and fixing his eyes on the building where the tape was hidden, deciding that before the night ended, it would burn. At 8:30, as round 4 intensified and Jones began timing Clay's rhythm, thudding hooks into his ribs and landing a hard shot to the temple that nearly sent him down. Clay clenched, refusing to fall because not tonight would he lose control of his fate. He clinched and held tight until his head cleared, and the referee pulled them apart. Clay drifted backward, mind racing Bumpy. Where are you? Did you get it done? He crushed the thought, locked eyes with Jones as the bell sounded. Round 4 ended at 8:31 p.m. on Pleasant Avenue. Illinois and Calvin slid through the shadows toward 2847. The 2 guards out front were still arguing about the fight. One of them hunched over a transistor radio. Clay's in trouble. Jones is landing heavy. Told you, that kid was all talk. Illinois raised 3 fingers. 2, 1, they struck together. Calvin's blackjack dropped the first guard with a single, silent blow. Illinois hit the second, but the first shot clipped his temple. He sagged, starting to shout. Illinois hit him again. Silence. 15 seconds. 2 guards down. No alarm. Illinois keyed his radio. Outside clear. Go. Asterisk by 8:32 p.m. Marcus Webb reached the back door, with Jerome and Dwayne at his heels. The lock was old. Marcus picked it in seconds. He eased the door open to an empty kitchen, smelling of stale coffee and Italian food. The television blared from the front room, commentary and crowd noise spilling down the hall. Marcus listened. 4 voices, all shouting at the screen. He signaled. Jerome left, Dwayne right, himself center. Asterisk, they moved down the narrow hallway. 4 men sat around at TV, cards and drinks scattered on the table, guns on their hips, but hands nowhere near them. Don't move, Marcus said, stepping into the doorway. Asterisk for stunned faces swung toward him. The biggest man reached for his gun. Dwayne closed the distance in 2 strides and dropped him with a crushing punch. Jerome locked another in a chokehold before he could rise. A third threw up his hands. Okay. The 4th bolted. Marcus yanked him back, swept his legs, and cinched his wrists tight. 30 seconds. 4 down. Asterisk Marcus scanned the room. 1 man stood out, holder, gray at the temples, expensive watch, the calm of someone seasoned. He keyed the radio. First floor clear. Got one who looks important. Send Bumpy up. Asterisk at 8:35 p.m. Bumpy Johnson climbed to the 2nd floor, with Teddy Jr. close behind. The hallway was tight, 3 doors, 1 at the end. They advanced slowly, Bumpy's hand on his pistol, Teddy carrying a shotgun. 3 feet from the end door. Bumpy reached for the knob. Asterisk the door burst open. A gunman fired. Bumpy dove aside as a bullet tore into the wall. Teddy answered instantly. The shotgun roared. The shooter crumpled, wounded, and disarmed, his pistol skidding across the floor. Bumpy kicked it away and looked him over. Young, clutching a shredded shoulder, asterisk inside the room, sat a desk, file cabinets, and in the corner, a heavy old safe. Asterisk Bumpy crouched beside the wounded man. The safe combination. Asterisk the man spat blood. Go to hell. Asterisk a knife pressed to his cheek. One more time. Asterisk I don't know. Only the captains. Asterisk Bumpy studied him pain and fear. But no lie. He stood and faced a safe, thick steel that would take hours to crack, time they didn't have. Asterisk Teddy, bring up the older one from downstairs. Asterisk at 8:40 p.m. inside Madison Square Garden. Round 5 began. Clay was starting to find his rhythm. He went back to work. Jab, jab, circle left, forcing Jones to reset. He'd trained his whole life for nights like this. For the instant when everything tilted against you and you had to reach deeper than you thought possible. He reached and found it. A sharp 3-punch burst. Jab, straight right, left hook. All clean. Jones staggered for the first time. A ripple moved through the crowd. Clay surged, snapping jabs, flowing into combinations. This is who I am. This is what I do. The bell cut through the noise. Round 5 ended at 8:40 p.m. Asterisk on Pleasant Avenue. 2nd floor. The gray-haired Italian was named Carmine. 20 years with Vincent Gigan. Now, he knelt, zip-tied, staring up at Bumpy Johnson. Asterisk, you know who I am. Asterisk recognition flickered. Fear followed. Asterisk, I need the combination. Asterisk, I don't have it. Asterisk, Bumpy struck him hard. Don't waste me. You're no street soldier. You've been with Gigante for years. Asterisk Carmine tasted blood. Even if I knew, you'd kill me anyway. Asterisk maybe, but there's fast and there's slow. Bumpy crouched close. I did 11 years in Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary. You learn things there. About pain, about how long a man can scream. The knife pressed to Carmine's throat, not cutting, just enough to promise it could. Give me the combination. Tell Gigante we dragged it out of you. No shame in that. Asterisk sweat rolled down Carmine's temple. If I talk, he kills me. Asterisk, that's tomorrow. Right now, it's me. Asterisk, 5 seconds. 10. Carmine broke. 15, 28, 41. I swear. Asterisk Bumpy crossed to the safe and spun the dial. 15, 28, 41. A click. The door swung open. Asterisk cash, folders, photographs, and 3 reel-to-reel tapes labeled asterisk Councilman Martinez, March 1962, asterisk Judge Harrison, November 1961, asterisk Clay Malcolm, February 1963. Asterisk Bumpy swept the tapes into his bag, then the cash. He glanced at Carmine. Smart choice. One last blow dropped him cold. We're done. Asterisk at 8:47 p.m. Downstairs, the front door opened. 2 suited Italians stepped and sawed their men trussed up, saw guns drawn and reached. Shots exploded. Marcus dove behind a couch and fired back. One man fell, the other screamed for help before Dwayne put a round through his leg. The shout carried into the street. Asterisk we move. Marcus barked. Asterisk, they bolted for the rear as Bumpy and Teddy thundered down the stairs. Voices rose from a social club across the way. They burst into the alley where Willie waited, engine running. Doors slammed. Willie floored it. Asterisk gunfire chased them. Glass shattered. Bullets chewed through the back window. Calvin hissed, clutching his arm. Just a graze, someone said. Asterisk Willie took corners at speed. 5 minutes later, no headlights followed. Asterisk Illinois looked at Bumpy. You get it. Asterisk Bumpy raised a bag. I got it. Asterisk by 9:15 p.m. inside Madison Square Garden. Round 9 was underway. Clay was bleeding from a cut over his right eye, opened 2 rounds earlier. Between rounds, Dundee worked frantically to slow it. Asterisk 3 more. Dundee said, you got 3 more. Asterisk Clay nodded. I've got everything. Asterisk, the bell rang. He came out hard. No more retreat, throwing in 3s. 3 rounds left. Time to prove it. Asterisk Clay snapped out a jab, then another, then a straight right that jolted Jones's head back. The arena hushed. This wasn't the script they'd come for. A left hook, a right uppercut, another stiff jab. Jones was fading now. His punches dull, his feet heavy. Asterisk, I am the greatest. I told you. Asterisk, the bell ended round 9. 1 round to go. Asterisk at 9:15 p.m. in Harlem. Inside an abandoned warehouse, the tape rested in Bumpy's hands. Clay Malcolm, February 1963. Just a few ounces of plastic and magnetic ribbon, small enough to hide in a coat pocket, heavy enough to ruin lives. Asterisk Marcus's arm was being wrapped. Calvin's graze had been bandaged. The others stood unhurt. Asterisk, what about the other 2? Illinois asked. Asterisk Bumpy glanced at the labels. Councilman Martinez. Judge Harrison, he shook his head. Burn them. We're not in the blackmail business. Asterisk, he handed all 3 to Teddy Jr., who dropped them into an oil drum in the corner. Bumpy struck a match for Cassius Clay, for Malcolm, for every black man forced to live he let it fall. Asterisk flame took quickly. Plastic warped. Tape curled and shrank into itself. Within moments, there was nothing left but smoke and ash. Asterisk, it's done, Bumpy said quietly. Now let's see how that young man finishes. Asterisk by 9:30 p.m. at Madison Square Garden. The 10th and final round began. Asterisk Clay's right eye was nearly swollen shut. His ribs throbbed. His legs burned, but he was upright. Asterisk Doug Jones came out hunting a knockout. Throwing wild, a right hand whistled past as Clay slipped and answered with a sharp hook. Jones lunged again. Clay rolled under it. Jones was spent, wide open. Clay stepped in. Jab, right hand, left hook, asterisk, right uppercut. All 4 landed clean. Jones sagged into the ropes. Legs unsteady. The bell rang. It was over. Asterisk. Clay raised his arms, unsure of the verdict. Boos rolled down from the stands. Jones's corner celebrated, but Clay knew one thing he had not bent. Asterisk. The ring announcer lifted the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, after 10 rounds, we have a unanimous decision. Silence swallowed the arena. The winner, Cassius Clay. Asterisk. The place erupted. Clay leaped onto the ropes, shouting to the rafters, I am the greatest. I told you. March 14, 1963. 2 a.m. Small's Paradise was nearly dark. A few lights glowing in the back office. Asterisk. Clay sat across from Bumpy Johnson in the same chairs as 3 nights earlier. It felt like another lifetime. Asterisk. It's done, Bumpy said. The tape is ash. Asterisk. Clay studied him. What happens now? Won't Gigante start a war? Asterisk. Probably not. Asterisk. Why? Asterisk because he's smart. If he retaliates, he has to explain why he had a tape of you in the first place. That means exposing his own blackmail operation. The 5 families don't like that kind of attention. Bumpy took a slow sip of cognac. He'll swallow it. He'll remember, but he won't move. Asterisk, Clay, let that settle. I can't believe it's over. Asterisk, it's over. You won your fight. We burned their leverage. You're free. Asterisk, free. The word felt unfamiliar and powerful. Asterisk, Mr. Johnson, why? Why risk everything for me? Bumpy held his gaze for a long moment. When I was your age, I came to this city with nothing. I fought for every inch, got knocked down, got back up, but I fought alone. He leaned forward slightly. I watched too many young black men get broken because nobody stood behind them. He pointed at Clay. You've got something rare. That part of you that refuses to bow. That would rather lose everything than lose itself. His voice softened. I'm 58 years old. I've done things I'm not proud of, but tonight, I protected something that matters. Bumpy leaned back, letting the words sink in. I did what I could to make sure the next generation has a chance to fly. He extended his hand. You're going to be heavyweight champion someday. When you are, remember you got there your way. You didn't hide. You didn't kneel. Asterisk, Clay gripped it firmly. I won't forget. I'll never forget what you did. Asterisk, March 14, 1963. 3 a.m., Little Italy. Vincent Gigante sat in his office, staring at the report. Safe house, raided. 6 men beaten. 2 shot. 3 tapes destroyed. $47,000 gone. Bumpy Johnson, only 7 weeks out of Alcatraz, already making moves. Asterisk, Boss Tony Pictures, lingered in the doorway. What do you want us to do? Hit him tonight. Asterisk, Gigante stayed silent. Finally, he spoke. No. He hit our safe house. I know what he did, and I know what happens if we retaliate. He moved to the window. The 5 families don't know about my side business. If they discover I've been running blackmail using FBI tapes, I'm finished. They'll kill me for bringing that heat. And if we go to war with Bumpy, it becomes public. Everyone will ask what we had worth fighting over. Asterisk, he turned back, eyes narrowing. So, we swallow it. For now, I don't forget. I don't forgive. Someday, there will be a reckoning. But today, we pretend none of this happened. Asterisk, and Clay? Tony asked. Asterisk, Gigante laughed bitterly. The tape's gone. All we can do is hope that loudmouthed kid loses his next fight fair and square. Asterisk, 11 months later, February 25, 1964, Miami Beach. Cassius Clay stood in the ring, across from Sonny Liston, the most feared heavyweight champion in history. The odds were 7-1 against him. Asterisk, for 6 rounds, Clay danced around Liston. He made the giant miss, made him frustrated, made him look old. After round 6, Liston didn't answer the bell. He quit on his stool. Asterisk, CASSIUS. Clay was the heavyweight champion of the world. He stood in the center of the ring, screaming, I shook up the world. I shook up the world. Asterisk, the next morning, he announced his conversion to Islam and his new name, Muhammad Ali. The tape could no longer harm him. He was already the greatest. Asterisk, in Harlem, watching on television, Bumpy Johnson raised his glass to the screen. For all of us, he whispered. Asterisk, 5 years later, July 7, 1968. Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson died of a heart attack at Wells Restaurant in Harlem. He was 62, collapsed at his regular table, surrounded by friends. More than 2,000 attended his funeral. Asterisk, Muhammad Ali wasn't there. He was fighting his own battles, having been stripped of his title for refusing the draft. But in later interviews, Ali would speak of a man who helped him when he needed it most. Asterisk, there was a man, Ali said, who showed me what courage really looked like. Not in the ring, outside of it. He risked everything so I could have a chance. I never forgot him. Asterisk, he never gave more details, but he remembered. Harlem remembered. And now, so do you. Asterisk, if this story moved you, if Bumpy Johnson's code resonates, hit that subscribe button. We're sharing the story's history, tried to bury the moments that made legends. The men who refused to kneel. Drop a comment. What would you have done in Clay's position? Share this with someone who's been told to hide their greatness. Because that's the lesson Bumpy taught us. You don't ask permission to be extraordinary. You don't wait for anyone's permission to be great.